you start, this is kind of bothering me. Are you just like Dr. Arlene that operated on Mr. Farrakhan?
Did I operate on Minister Farrakhan? Yes.
Hey, I didn't know that. I didn't know if it was a different one or not. The Minister Farrakhan had prostate cancer, and he got his operation done here at Dr. University Hospital. This was Dr. Arlene.
Is that a part of Black History Month? So, yeah, now, of course, there was a team. We call them the Dream Team. We have some of the greatest surgeons here at University Hospitals, like LaSalle Hall, world-class surgeon, Robert DeWitt, Deborah Ford. And there were more, but those were the key surgeons that were a part of the team. So I played a very minor role in what was being done. Okay? So, Assalamu alaikum. So how's everyone this evening?
Well,
Is that true, or are you just saying it just to be nice? Everybody looks happy. How many people were like her and said that Black History Month is irrelevant? 1, 2, 3. Okay. So everybody else agrees that it's relevant?
Pretty much.
Okay. Relevant to whom?
Or relevant to me.
Relevant to you? Relevant to anybody else?
Should be relevant to our people in general.
Okay.
I think it's relevant to the country.
It's relevant to the country.
They could say they put a Band-Aid on some of their, like, we're now treating you as equals. Here's some here, we're acknowledging you in a positive light.
I think they already have the knowledge that we don't have. Sorry to interrupt you, sister, but I think they already have the knowledge.
So let me interrupt you.
Yes.
This is a dialogue session.
Okay.
I am the facilitator.
Yeah.
So I control the floor. So you speak anytime you want when I recognize you.
Oh, okay.
So she has the floor.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, but the way it works is you just raise your hand and I'll take note of it. Now, suppose 5 people raise their hand at the same time. Then what I will do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then those people will speak in that order. Okay? So it's a free discussion, but on the other hand, it's controlled. So you.
No, that's just the
Oh,
country
okay.
is relevant to them.
Go ahead.
I don't know what I was going to say.
Oh, I don't okay. Those things like that, they will come back. So don't worry about it.
It's not relevant to me for the reasons that I stated before, but I feel as if it's relevant to maybe the wrong people, the right people in the sense of what he said, with the people who don't know, you take this month to go harder, you know, things like that. But I feel like it's mainly relevant to the general, like, to white people. Who are like, we gave you this month for you guys to feel good about yourselves.
Did they?
This is important. No, what's in it? But I feel like they.
Wait. How do we come to have a Black History Month?
It came from Black History Week, I think, right?
No, but where did Black History Week come from? No, Black History Day. Carter G. Woodson, and I have a picture of his house. You'd like to see it. His house is right there on 9th Street. Okay, and if you go and look at his house, right across the street on 9th Street is where the Honorable Elijah Muhammad used to teach Islam back in the 30s. So one would wonder whether or not there could have been a conversation between Elijah Muhammad, who was on the east side of the street, and right across the street, Carter G. Woodson was on the west side. So it's interesting. But Carter G. Woodson is considered to be what? The father of Black History Day. No one gave it to him. How did we get Black History Day?
He fought for it.
He campaigned at different organizations.
He created it. He created it against what?
Like,
Against Black people.
Against us.
Of course.
Why would they say against them?
Who wants to know about niggers?
Well, I don't think anybody wants to know.
Right, okay. Okay, well, I mean, what do you think the attitude of what we now call black people, when did black people get to be black?
60s.
Yeah, 1969. Okay, before black people. Negroes with a capital N, and before that, what were they? No, they're still niggers. They're niggers. This is 2015.
AS.
Oh,
yeah.
Excuse me.
Saying you're gonna write a timeline.
I'll fix it then. I don't know about niggers. No, I mean, like a lot of the comments that were made as we went around, people that's not relevant, nobody pays attention to it. Well, what do you think they were paying attention to in 1933? When we were called colored. Well, what were they paying attention to? Where history was concerned.
Oh, I wasn't gonna answer that. I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say why they're not paying attention now. There's so many other like distractions that weren't around in 1933. People thrive off the distraction and be in the distraction until they make money from it.
Well, what were people being distracted about in 1933?
Oh,
I guess from the Depression
Yeah, they were being distracted by hunger and poverty.
and Roosevelt's fireside chats and stuff like that.
If you had a radio, which you don't think anything of now. But back in 1933, to have a radio was a luxury. So most people didn't have it. I'm old enough to remember when television was like that. When television was a luxury, when somebody that you knew got a television, everybody would go over their house to watch a screen that wasn't even as big as this. Okay, so besides poverty, hunger, what else were people distracted from or by in 1933?
Racism, that's it.
Yeah,
Was there a war before?
well, World War II ended when? I mean, World War I ended,
What was it, 17?
1914.
but it started in 1914 and ended around 1917, 18. It was ended by the Spanish flu. Okay, so when was World War II?
Ended in 45.
Ended in 45. When did the United States get involved in World War II? No? 41. Okay? I mean, a lot of times it's hard to determine exactly when something starts and when something ends. Because something always happened just before that, and that was part of it. But so somebody arbitrarily puts these dates on. So in 1933, there was no war that this country was involved. What was going on that was distracting the whole country besides the Great Depression?
It was declared bankrupt.
Okay, it was a bankruptcy. We talked about that last week. The United States declared itself to be bankrupt and in a state of emergency. What else was going on in 1933? Listen, you all have smartphones and stuff. You sit there looking at me for, you should be looking at Google. I don't know everything, Google knows everything, right? So what else was going on?
There was hunger, wasn't it? The Dust Bowl.
The Dust Bowl. The whole country was in a drought. All of the farmland dried up and you had dust blowing all over the country. People on the roads, moving from east to west, west to south, south to north. You know, how do you think your people got to Chicago? It was in 1933, sometime around there. That's how my people came from South Carolina to Pennsylvania. Because they were hungry, unemployed. What was going on racially?
Lynchings.
Lynchings, left and right. What else was going on racially? No segregation, yeah, but that's boring. That's, I mean, dynamic stuff. But what black folks doing?
In 1933?
1930, well, in a general area, you know, the late 20s into the 30s. What was generally going on racially?
In the 20s?
Yeah.
Well,
Let's start in 1913. So from 1913 till 1933, that's 20 years. What happened? Who started the Harlem Renaissance?
Duke Ellington.
No, Duke Ellington arrived in New York in about 1929. Where was Duke Ellington born? Washington, D.C., right over here on 13th Street. You can go see his house. His house is right there. He was raised right there. So he got to New York around 1929. The Harlem Renaissance starts 1913, 1914. Again, depending on who you use as your reference. So who started it? What would be the, kind of arbitrary, but what would be a logical starting point for the Harlem Renaissance? See, we're talking about black history, that's irrelevant, right?
Zora Neale Hurston?
That's why you don't know it, right? Because it's irrelevant.
It was poets, right?
Huh?
Poets and artists, musicians.
Well, but who was the individual that was the number one?
Zora Neale?
No,
Zora Neale Hurston?
no, no, somebody bigger than that.
W.E.B.
Bigger than that. Marcus Garvey. Yeah, when Marcus Garvey came to New York in 1913. And started the UNIA, the African Conference League, or African Community League.
Okay, and because he created what you could call an umbrella in Harlem,
Then Langston Hughes and Countee Cullen and Duke Ellington and all the rest of them, they had a place. But somebody had to create the place. How did he create the place that would allow for a Harlem Renaissance? How would you create a place today if you wanted to have a Renaissance? What must you need?
He didn't do it by pulling all the black people's resources, like all the black people donated, and that was an investment.
Not in the beginning. He did have programs that eventually were like that. But not in the beginning. What did he have in the beginning?
The thought,
Okay, what was the thought?
freedom.
No. I mean, that was,
Black
I mean,
national.
everybody has freedom, right? There's nothing new about that. Everybody knows about freedom. George Washington was talking about freedom. But what was Marcus Garvey talking about?
Nation building?
black independence.
Going back.
He was talking about the new Negro. The new Negro. He had an idea about a new type of black person that the world had never seen before. So when he started preaching in Harlem about the new Negro, then people stepped forward to become the new Negro. So that's where you get Helmsley, what's his name, Helmsley, the great, the inventor of modern dance. Helmsley, what's his name? Somebody look. Helmsley, he invented what you call modern dance today. No, Alvin Ailey, he would be Alvin Ailey's grandfather. Alvin Ailey was his student.
Fraser.
Helmsley Fraser?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Helmsley Fraser. And the great poets and the great painters and the great musicians, what were they trying to live up to? They were trying to live up to the ideal of a new Negro that was not subservient to white people. So that's where you got the Harlem Renaissance. What else was going on? in 1913, 1914, 1916, 1917?
Black Wall Street.
Okay, we talked about that. Where was that?
Tulsa.
And what happened to it?
They burned it down.
Land burned down.
Okay. So what was the Negro response to things like Tulsa?
Not to do it again. Don't be sufficient. Sufficient.
No, not actually.
Okay.
No, Negroes burned down Detroit. The Detroit, look up the race riots in Detroit around that period of time, in New York, in Philadelphia, in Washington, D.C. Isn't that like the 1916, 1917 was called the bloody summer of 1916 or something like that. There were so many race riots across the country. It was called the bloody summer, or the summer of blood, something like that. Red summer, something like that. There was blood, violence all over the country. What was the political philosophy of many of these militant new Negroes? What was their
Socialism.
socialism, communism? They were part of the Communist Party. And they were working for a revolution inside America. And of course, what is the viewpoint of Marxist-Leninists towards black people in America?
Marxist philosophy wasn't religion is slavery.
Well, I think Lenin said religion is the opiate of the people. But what was the viewpoint of the Communist Party International towards black people in America?
They would incite the revolution from the inside out.
Exactly. Black people were considered, and this was standard communist doctrine. Black people in America, or Negroes in America, are the vanguard of the proletariat. And the proletariat, meaning the common people, the working people, the bedrock on which the elites, the bourgeoisie, and the ruling classes rest. And so you need a proletarian revolution to overthrow the ruling classes. And in America, according to the communist point of view, the vanguard of the proletarian revolution are black people. So there was a lot of proselytizing among Negroes. What was happening religiously around this period of time?
Preachers and Daddy Grace.
Okay, when did Daddy Grace get started? Who is Daddy Grace?
Heard the name.
Okay. You have your hand up.
Around 1930, Master Fard Muhammad arrived in America.
Okay, so Master Fard Muhammad shows up in 1930. Who showed up in in around 1898? No, that was a little bit later. That was a little bit later. But again, you have to mention that name, Noble Drew Ali. Some say Noble Drew Allah. Yeah, they teach you that's Allah in person. I'm not a Moorish scientist. Who's a Moorish scientist in here? Okay, so Noble Drew Ali taught black people, you're not Negroes, you're Moors. Your nationality is Moorish. And because you don't know your nationality and you don't know how to be a citizen, you don't know how to be a free person. So that's what enslaves you. You don't know who you are. Okay, what else was going on? Where did Father Divine come from? He was right here in Maryland. And what did he teach?
They taught Father Divine and Daddy Grace like prosperity teaching. They were like the precursors to the big prosperity preachers of today.
Yeah. What else? Who was Father Divine? I mean, who did he say he was? That's the way I should have asked the question. Who did he say he was?
Did he say he was God too?
Yeah, he said he was God in person.
He was the messenger.
Okay. So who was the successor to Father Divine?
Jim Jones?
Okay, Jim Jones, I was skipping ahead. When Father Divine died, then Reverend Jim Jones tried to take over the movement. Father Divine's widow prevented it, so he started the People's Temple, but he had all of the teachings in the files of Father Divine that he took to the West Coast.
Is Jim Jones, just for clarification, is Jim Jones the one that, took all those people, I forget where it happened, like killed themselves with cyanide in school?
Yeah, he took 946, I believe, mostly black people to Guyana, where he founded a colony in the jungles called Jonestown. And after a few years, they committed mass suicide.
Why would you want them to do that?
Well, actually, probably Jim Jones didn't want to do that, but Jim Jones was actually a mind-controlled CIA operative. And so what happened in Jonestown was actually a CIA operation that was testing out mind control technology to see whether you could get fairly normal people to follow a charismatic leader even to the length of mass suicide. And it was, in the terms of the CIA, it was a rip-roaring success. That mass suicide is possible. You could actually convince people. If you want to learn more about that, just go on YouTube, put in Jim Jones' last sermon, because he recorded the suicide. So while the people were drinking the poison Kool-Aid, he was talking. And you ought to listen to it and see what it sounds like when 900 people are committing suicide.
So you're saying Jim Jones was in control of the CIA?
According to the CIA, he was.
So everything, all the little negative aspects of his lifestyle were not his own.
No. Well, in my opinion, I agree with the Bible and I agree with the Holy Quran, which says that all of us are responsible for our own actions. So Jim Jones is responsible for what he did. He can't blame the CIA. Now, the CIA is responsible for what they did. They can't blame Jim Jones. And all the people who were with Jim Jones, they're responsible for what they did. They can't say he made me do it. And if you listen to the tape, you will see that he didn't make them. He was sitting there having a good time, watching them drink the Kool-Aid. And guess what? They were having a good time drinking the Kool-Aid. So they weren't mad at Jim Jones. They called him Father. Thank you, Father, for preparing us for this moment. Okay, so we're getting ahead of our story. We're still back in what else was going on religiously around this time? The late teens and into the 20s. What was the biggest religious movement that was ignited in the 20s? The biggest religious movement. As a matter of fact, it's still booming.
And when? What is the name?
I don't know the exact date, but it was like the early 20s, something like that. What's the biggest religious explosion in America?
Evangelicalism?
Yeah, evangelical. Pentecostalism. That was invented in England and imported into America and given to black people in the 20s. And so now we're just going crazy with Pentecostalism.
You mean like the revivals, the big revivals and?
That's where they started.
Okay.
Before then, they didn't have anything like that. This is new. This is new. This is not old, this is new.
Oh.
So are we, what are we doing? Are we proving how irrelevant history is? Or are we proving how relevant it is?
How relevant?
Yeah. It's very relevant. Why? Why is it relevant to know history?
Because if
Learn
you
from it.
so that you won't.
Also, so it doesn't repeat itself.
I'm sorry?
So it can't repeat itself.
Why would it repeat itself?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, you got the floor.
Because if you don't know what's been done to you, then you can't necessarily say, like, who's seen Selma? No? Okay, well, there's a scene in Selma where he's like, no more will we take such and such, no more is a sermon. And if you don't know what's been done to you, then you can't. I don't know how to phrase this.
No, you're doing fine. So, one of the things in dialogue study group, don't worry about the words. Just worry about what you mean. And then you do the best you can with the words. And you might think they're not the right words, but that's not even important. The only thing that's important is, do we get the meaning? And so we get the meaning.
You don't know what's been done to you. You don't have the proper tools to defend yourself against somebody trying to do that to you again.
But that still doesn't answer the question, why does history repeat itself? Why?
Because the actions or the nature of things aren't changed. So repeat itself in one sense, in another sense, because someone's writing it to, and there's no barrier or defense for it not to.
Okay, what kind of world do we live in?
Evil one.
It's not evil. Look at the grass growing, the trees growing, birds, flowers, bees, beautiful clouds, rain, oceans, beaches, mountains. What's evil about that?
That's beautiful.
Well, you said it was evil.
No, the people, some people specifically, are very evil.
Not you.
No.
No, not anybody here, right? There no evil people here, right? Yeah, so who are you talking about?
Specifically.
No, I'm just saying, a lot of times we make general statements like it applies everywhere. How many evil people do you think are in this world? I mean, truly evil people. I don't mean people that make mistakes. I mean people who have real evil intentions. A billion. Okay, so then that leaves how many good people?
How many people I know? 7.
Okay, so that leaves 6 billion good people, even if you're right.
I think that it depends on what type of mindset and like conditions that you're looking at. Because I still haven't fully determined whether or not I believe that people are fully evil, but like that we're taught, everybody has good evil in them, everybody has God and the devil inside of them. And so there are people who feed their evil side more. Now, how many of those people are there? I'm just label the 1% as those people.
Okay.
They're the ones who seem to top it off.
So then you would agree that predominantly human beings on planet Earth are good.
Not necessarily. I think that humans have the capacity for both. Like
Well, wait a minute. You live right now. You've been in the world a little while now, right? Okay, based on your experience, would you say that predominantly the people that you have met, are they evil or are they good? Evil, most of it, okay, all right. Sorry to hear that, man.
You asked what kind of world do we live in?
Yeah. These are real simple.
Generally,
See, don't get complicated.
I'm not. I was going to say 2 things. We live in the world of cause and effect. It's not complicated. It's simple.
Okay. All right. Okay.
It's constant.
Cause and effect. What other characteristic of the world that we live in?
Progress.
What's the most basic characteristic of this planet?
Living.
Reproduction.
That's the most basic thing.
Survival.
It's so obvious that you can't think of it.
Present. Existence.
No, that's complicated. What I'm talking about is not complicated. Huh?
What's the question?
What is the basic characteristic of the planet that you live on?
Round.
It's round, okay? It's round. So what does that have to do with history repeating itself?
It's a circle.
It's a circle. So you live on a round world, you live in a circular solar system, you live in a circular galaxy, you probably live in a circular universe. So everything moves in a circle. So what does that tell you? it comes around. So existence, life on this planet or any planet, anywhere in the universe is cyclical. So if you want to talk about history or time, okay, the sun came up this morning, didn't it? Guess what it's gonna do tomorrow? Come up. Now, will tomorrow be the same as today?
No.
In certain ways, it will be. See, the sun will come up, the sun will set tomorrow, just like it did today. So that's the same, right? Maybe it won't look the same, but the same events will happen. But then all the other things in between that can be different.
How do you change the events that are coming to be?
Okay, good. So then that gets us to the second part of what Black history remains to be written. So what would you, how would you use that to answer your question?
What Black history remains to be written. My question was, how do we change what's coming to be? Is this a simple answer?
Yes.
Learn history?
I don't know any complicated questions.
Just to learn our history?
No, no. See, you were going to find it. So she wants to know, how can you prevent tomorrow from being the same as today? How? Wait.
Change, I mean, just change what you do. You change the cause.
Right, okay, you change what you do, okay? So you plan you have a different plan.
Right.
Right? Okay, so you could do that on a small scale, like you could change your daily plan from today to tomorrow, so that tomorrow is better than today was. You ran into some problems today, and so now that you learned from those problems, now you're gonna fix them by coming up with a better plan for tomorrow, right? And if you do that every day, then life gets better day by day, because every time you learn, then you fix whatever was wrong, so then it makes it better. So history can be progressive and different, but what is required for that?
Knowledge of the past and present.
Well, you're saying it. That's right, but you're saying it wrong. You answer. They waited on you.
I would say you have to know what the cause is and why it caused the effect.
All right, see, I knew you knew it. See, so how would you find out what the cause and effect is?
You will follow the proper steps, which is the steps of atonement.
Okay, well, to simplify it, you would just study it, wouldn't you? Yeah, you would actually look at the events that happened today. Say before you go to sleep, you would be laying there and you would go over the events of the day in your head, and you would see what was right, and you say, okay, I want more of that. Then you would see what was wrong. You say, no, I don't want any more of that. What caused that? Then you would do an analysis to discover what is the cause of that bad thing that happened, and the bad effect that it produced, and then you would change the cause to cause what you want to have. And so then the next day you get up, now you have a fresh plan. And you don't repeat the mistake of yesterday. You tried to go to work one way, the traffic was too heavy. So you learn, oh, tomorrow I'm gonna go another way. And you find, oh, that's even worse. So now you learn again. So now the next day you try the third route until you find one that actually works. So you can get to work on time, right? Okay, well, how big a time in the future could you change through that process? Because could you handle a whole week? Could you actually manage to plan a whole week in advance so that everything happens the way you want it to happen for a whole week? Yes. Is that possible? Yes. Could you do that for a month? Yes. Pardon? I'm sorry.
So it depends on how much trying to change, how strong, or what exactly are you trying to change?
Well, what would determine how strong a desire you have to change? What would determine that?
That's me.
Yeah, but what is on you that determines that? Wait a minute, he's got something. Don't you see?
Probably how bad roll money the desire would determine that You got an idea that's sparkling in me, think like, I need this, that.
Why?
Why, you gotta find out.
Yeah, but okay, when you find out, what is gonna be at the root of why you want a change?
A lack of something.
A lack of something. Okay, so what does a lack of something produce? Dissatisfaction.
My favorite quote.
Yeah, so dissatisfaction produces a change. So if nobody's dissatisfied, if everybody's satisfied, I'm happy with the way they are, then what's gonna change? Nothing. So, suppose you were in charge of the status quo. Well, what is the status quo, by the way?
That's a question.
It's a question of the whole room. Anybody that knows the answer.
No, like, who's status quo, because, like I said.
What is status quo? Let's not worry about who's yet. What is it in general? What does it mean? What does status quo mean? What language are we speaking now?
Latin.
Okay, what does it mean?
Is this existing state of affairs?
Wait a minute. Go ahead.
Existing state of affairs, particularly with
Well, she
regards.
can't hear what you're saying.
Existing state of affairs, particularly with regards to social and political issues.
Okay, existing state of affairs. The way things are. Like they say in the rap song, that's the way it is. That's it. That's the status quo.
I know. Can I play Jim Jones' sermon?
It's long, isn't it?
Oh, no, the clip is 8 minutes, but.
Oh, no, that's the whole thing is like 4 hours. Do you know how long it takes for 900 people to commit suicide? You have to have patience. Especially when babies are crying. You have to tell the mothers to quiet those babies down. Just tell them they're taking a long nap. Just tell them that.
That is so.
Can I play a minute of it?
Yeah, play for a minute. So this is history we wouldn't want to repeat, I remember.
Everything that they wish to do, and even kill you, thinking they do God serve. And if you're not getting persecution, you're not living godly. So I have my credentials. What about you? If you're not getting persecution, you ought to ask why. Because when you live.
I don't think that's it.
Yeah, I'm about to say that's too high deep. That's
No, but there was some parts of it. That were. No, you have to realize that, to a religious fanatic. A religious fanatic, he's approaching death. You think he's depressed? No, he's getting ready to enter glory. He's not depressed. This is the moment for which he has been preparing for all of these years. The moment of the transfiguration, I think the Christians would call it.
It's trippy when you think about it, because when you think about all of the like major people in history who were considered evil, like Hitler, Jim Jones, those people, it's trippy because when you look at it, you're like, they were all extremely charismatic. They were all likable people, great speakers and stuff like that. So you look at that, you're just like, bruh, anybody could be a mass murderer if they could talk, if they could speak well enough. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, in psychiatry, that's what they say. If you want to see what a murderer looks like, look in the mirror.
Because it's like, I just equated that with like, take the minister, for instance. I know people just in LA that the minister was just like, kill yourself in the next hour. They just be gone.
What you mean they would do it?
Yeah, and it's scary. Like, it's scary.
Okay, so what do you learn from that? And what was
Not thinking on your own is dangerous. Not being able to think for yourself is dangerous.
Okay, so in other words, one of the lessons would be don't turn your sovereign authority as a thinking being over to somebody else. You always retain your ability to be yourself and to have your own point of view and to agree or disagree. I mean, that's actually how we run the study group, right? One of the rules of dialogue is each person must speak from their own point of view. Don't try to speak from my point of view. Don't try to speak from somebody else's point of view that's not here. Just truthfully tell us what your point of view is. Well, in order to have a point of view, what must you be willing to do? Think. You have to be willing to think. Otherwise, you won't even know you have a point of view. You won't even know you have a point of view until you struggle with the words trying to express it. So now, if you're not used to doing that, then what are you used to? You're used to someone else expressing a point of view on your behalf. I'll do the thinking around here. You know, I mean, that's how it goes. If you join the military, what are they going to tell you?
Take order.
We didn't enlist you for you to think. You're here to obey orders only. Leave the thinking to us. Right? Okay, so now the status quo is the current, what was it? The current what?
Existing state of affairs.
The current existing state of affairs, the way it is. Okay, so now, how does that relate to the repetition of history?
Because you have, it might not be like the same as it was before. Yeah. That's the big one. You have a group of people at the top, and you have a group of people who those people stepped on to get to the top. It's a state of discontent and a state of unfairness. And it's similar to even just when people throw up the pictures from like the when people throw up pictures from the past, the pictures from the present, and note the similarities between the two, like that icon person picture of the beautiful world and whatever it was he was from, and a picture from a riot, I think Martin Luther King during his time. It's just like, you know, the similarities. It's just like not much has changed. People become.
Okay, I don't hear you answering the question.
What was the question?
The question is from the point of view of the status quo. Why does history repeat itself?
People just think that's how things are supposed to be.
Okay, that's part of it.
Because the way it is now is because of what happened before.
Well, that's part of the cause and effect. The way things are today is because of what happened in the past. Yeah, that's certainly true.
There's a producer of the status quo that wants to keep the things the way they are.
Exactly. See, that's probably the most important. There's probably other reasons that we could list. But the most important thing is, see, this status quo, the way things are, somebody benefits from that. Somebody is on top. And what do they want? They want to keep it exactly the way it is. So what is the famous French quote about history? It was right after the French Revolution, and there was a meeting of French nobility that had been literally overthrown by the French Revolution, which had been inspired, of course, by the American Revolution. And so the nobility came out with a statement that was, you've already heard it, that the more things change, the more they stay the same. That's not an exact quote. Something's lost from the French into the English. To be more specific, the meaning of the statement was, we have to change so that things can stay the same. Meaning that we have to give in to the change so that we will always stay on top. If we fight the change, then we will be overthrown. If we go along with the change, then we can manipulate it in such a way that when it's all said and done, nothing has changed.
From a physics point of view, that makes a lot of sense because what they're doing is going in the direction of momentum. So they're going to have the least opposition.
So what is that called? Well, okay, well, what is physics called?
The science,
Science, so what did you just describe?
science
Science of what?
of non-change.
History.
Science of history.
Okay.
See, science is not just memorizing a bunch of events. Since it's cyclical, it moves in a circle, there's a pattern that repeats itself. So an intelligent person can study enough cycles of history to be able to decipher what the pattern of history is. So then, I mean, again, like the pattern of a day. If you see the sun come up, you know what's coming next. If you see it's high at noon, okay, you can predict 6 hours from now, the sun is gonna set. You're not in any doubt about that, because you know the pattern. Okay, well, we're not talking about 24-hour cycles here. What are the known cycles of history? How long are they?
25,000 years.
Okay, so there's a 25,000 year cycle. What's another one? Yeah, actually, it is a 50,000 year history cycle.
What decades?
That's kind of like, see, like there's a division. A decade means 10 years. Actually, the cycles don't follow 10-year cycles. What do they follow? No,
7-year cycles.
7-year cycles.
But those aren't multiples of 7.
These aren't exact numbers either.
Okay.
So, now this is really, I'm sorry. 7 years, 7 days, weeks, and then there is a 50-year cycle. So now let me take a few minutes, because I sent you this, right? About the Jubilee. Does anybody know what the Jubilee is?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it? What is it? What is it? What is Jubilee?
You saying generally?
I don't mean the fiscal Jubilee century either. What is Jubilee?
So Jubilee is the 50th year. So 7 cycles of 7. So after the 49th year of the 50th year of Jubilee, biblically and historically has been when all debts and credits have been cleared and all property is returned to the owner and everything kind of resets.
Okay. So again, this is based on scripture. What she just said is based on scripture. So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's what the Genesis Bible says, right? Okay. In 6 days, right? Right? Then on the 7th day was the rest. That's the Sabbath, right? That's spelled right.
It's no I.
There's no I in there. That's not I. So the 7th day is the Sabbath, and you should keep it holy, and on that day you shall rest. See, that's the divine week. Okay, so then when you put 7 weeks together, that's 49 days. 7 times 7 is 49 days plus 1 gives you another kind of a Sabbath every 50 days. Then you could put that together, and eventually you end up with a 7-year Sabbath. So this is applied a lot of times in agriculture. That, okay, you have a farm, you have an orchard, you're growing things. So you're allowed to plant and sow and reap 6 years. Then on the 7th year, you have to let the field alone. You have to let it lay fallow so it can renew itself. Otherwise, you will exhaust the soil. And that ends in the long run in starvation, because the land that you need to produce your food is exhausted because you never gave it a rest. So the 7th year is the Sabbath year where you let the land rest. Also in that 7th year, you could say is the little Jubilee. The little jubilee means that in that 7th year, all debts, they're not forgiven, but they don't have to be paid. You get a year off, so you don't have to pay it. Pardon?
Right?
And then they go, the Saudis, they do that too?
Student loans.
Student loans.
Well, all right, you're jumping ahead, so you're smart. You see the end of this, you can see where I'm going. Well, no, you can see where I'm going, you already see it. But let me get there, right? So, that's the little jubilee. But now, if you take 7 jubilees, 7 little jubilees, 7 years each, 7 times 7 is 49 years, plus 1 year, the 50th year, that is the big jubilee. Now, the big jubilee, yes, the debts are completely forgiven. If someone lost their land during that 50-year period of time, it's restored. If someone became enslaved, then in the Jubilee year, they're set free. If they became a prisoner, in the Jubilee year, they're set at liberty. So it's a reset, because society has a tendency, like most things, to run down, to get stuck in a rut where things are not right. So then there's a reset every now and then. Every 7 years, a little reset. Every 50 years, a major reset, major jubilee. Because if you didn't do that, what would happen? The strong and the rich would get stronger and richer. And the poor would get poorer and poorer and poorer, like you have now. Where 1% of the people own 80% of the wealth. Well, that's because they missed the jubilee. When was the last 50-year jubilee?
It was recent, because somebody was trying to hand me a flyer for it not so long ago.
No, well, what do you mean by recent? It was 50 years ago. Which was when?
Before I was born.
When was it? 1965. 1965 was the year of Jubilee. Somebody mentioned the movie Selma. When was that? 65. Yeah, 64, 65. So what was forgiven in 1965? What was changed? What was reset? Really? Voting rights. So before 1965, you could not vote. After 1965, now all of a sudden you can vote. Now you got a black man in the White House. You do. You can go down there. Once you go down there and knock on the door and see if there's a black man in there.
That's a black man.
All right. All right. Well, you wouldn't have had that if you couldn't vote.
Whatever that means.
What do you mean it doesn't mean anything?
He's not. Okay.
You just saying it because he's black.
I think could associate with him.
You just saying because he's black. You just saying because he's black, he's not as good as Bush was. I think he's every bit as good as Bush.
Okay.
I think he's better than Nixon. I think he's better than Nixon.
With their agenda.
I'm just defending my brother. No, he ain't no better or no worse than the rest of them, but at least he's there.
He's following their agenda.
How far you say it's their agenda?
Oh, he's honest.
Just like he don't believe in it. You mean to say he don't believe in it?
No, he doesn't.
All right, then it's his.
Their agenda, all of them.
And you don't know who wrote it anyhow. You don't know who wrote the agenda. Who wrote the agenda that is being followed by the neocons and the rest of these devils?
He talked about it.
Who wrote the agenda? Yaqub. Was Yaqub a white man or a black man?
A black man.
Yeah, a black man. So why are you angry at a black man for following him?
I associate with him as being a black man, but he doesn't associate with us.
So
So he's not for us.
I told you, but I didn't knock on the door. You have never even called on him. You don't even know whether he would open the door and invite you in for tea. Because you never tried.
No.
You never even tried. You say he's your brother, and you never even called him up and invited him over to your house. No, I've been trying to get this steady. You tell him. This study group at Howard University to invite your first black president to Howard University to talk to you. And I have to admit that I have not been able to get any cooperation from the students. You're the most antisocial people. Here you have the opportunity to invite the first black president to your college and you won't do it. You're mad at him, you don't like him. I'm not saying he's perfect, but he's yours. You know, you don't even accept your own. You can render his own and his own received him not. That's what the Bible said. So, what were we talking about?
Year of Jubilee.
Before you distracted us.
The last year of Jubilee, 60.
Yeah, 665. So what did you get in 1965? What did anybody get in 1965? Voting rights, what else?
You got the death of Malcolm.
You got the death of Malcolm, that's true. Okay, you got that. What else?
1965?
That was just 50 years ago. That's not long ago. Well, one of the major things you got in 1965, what was President Johnson's domestic policy called? The Great Society. So what was a part of the Great Society? Not welfare.
Yeah, like, public assistance.
Not public assistance. You had that long before the Great Society.
Public hospitals, being able to go.
You had that before the Great Society. What did you get? Affirmative action. Where you had a right to bid on contracts for public dollars so that you could build a business. You had what Job Corps, Youth Corps, model cities to rebuild the cities, rebuild the schools, rebuild the libraries. Head Start. I mean, there's countless numbers of programs that were initiated to give people a chance at having a good life. So why do we tend to be so ungrateful? That we had all these things before. No, you didn't. You didn't have none of them. So, what is the Jubilee year now?
2015.
Yeah, 2015. Yeah, 2015. Yeah. And guess what? This is not just a regular 50-year Jubilee. Well, not as big as that, except some of these are coming due too. But if you look in the book of Daniel, the book of Ezekiel, I think, Revelations, it talks about the 70 weeks of years. Well, actually, what it's talking about is 70 jubilees. That in these 70 weeks of years is the culmination of all of the prophecies. Like everything in the Bible comes true in the 70th week of years. So when does the Jubilee begin in 2015?
September September 13th.
Yeah, it begins right after Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. So after the Day of Atonement, then comes the biggest Jubilee in 3,500 years. That brings to a culmination all of the prophecies of the Old Testament prophets, all of the New Testament prophets, and the Holy Quran. All of it comes to fulfillment at this time. So what does that mean to you? So, you know, what is the relevance of knowing this for you? Huh?
What does that mean to me?
Yeah, don't stop thinking now.
To me, I think it's about staying prepared, you know, staying on point so that.
Staying on point, staying on point. Staying on point, man. What does that mean?
Just be ready for whatever happens.
Yeah, but wait. We are here to say what is going to happen.
I don't know.
Wait a minute. You're not paying attention to the topic.
Black history, I think it's like.
No, you
Black, brother.
It says, what does this say? It says, what black history remains to be written.
So what we're gonna do.
Yeah, so what are you gonna do? It's the 70th major jubilee, the first time in 3,500 years. What are you gonna do with it? Why do you think?
We're gonna become new Negroes.
We're gonna become new Negroes. Okay.
We're gonna, I guess we're gonna belong to a new paradigm shift.
We're going to belong.
Well, we're going to usher in, I don't know how to say, usher in a new
What
paradigm.
does belong mean?
Own it, that somebody owning you.
So if I'm going to belong to something or somebody, what have I just said?
We're going to be rightly placed in specified positions.
Okay, what have I just said? When I said I'm going to belong to
That
something.
is happening in the future.
And
No, what am I saying when I say I'm going to belong to something or someone?
You could be a slave.
Yeah, that you're property. Okay, so now, does that fit with Jubilee?
No.
No, Jubilee is when the slaves go free.
I think when we something about this whole police state of mind that America got, I think something big change gonna happen to that, gonna attack that.
Okay, so why does America have a police state of mind?
Yeah.
quickly here, all right.
Why?
Because they have something to protect. If we.
What protect against whom?
From the people.
Yeah, from you.
So if we find out how good they
Wait a
are.
minute, you didn't.
Huh?
No, protect against whom? Protect against whom?
Me.
You. You're the enemy of the police state. Because if you know that it's a jubilee, then you have an expectation. You know something's supposed to happen. Now, if you're a slave, you'll be sitting on the plantation waiting for somebody to come get you. Give you something else new to do on another plantation. So, I mean, that's how a slave would be. Well, we get ready to move to a better plantation. They got air conditioning. Air conditioning cotton fields, see, so. It'd be better. So what is needed? You said we getting ready to be a new Negro. So what produced the new Negro the first time?
And ideas.
Wait now. It's 1965. What was the Jubilee before that?
1905.
You all can.
I mean, 1915.
Okay.
So did we spend any time this evening talking about what happened around 1950? 1914, 1915, around that period of time?
Some of the big religious movements and stuff like that.
And what else?
War.
And what else?
Oh, it's part of the economy. And it's a renaissance, the migration.
Thank you.
Oh, the
Harlem Renaissance, the New Negro, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, the whole flowering of a new life for black people. So that was that Jubilee.
Okay.
What did you get for that Jubilee? You got Marcus Garvey. And everybody that came after, that was associated with him, that learned from him, that was inspired by him, you got that. To get you ready for the next Jubilee, which was going to be in 1965. And you were a little bit better prepared to handle that, so you actually got the government of the United States to agree to follow the Constitution. How about that?
This is the Constitution, you believe?
Voting rights.
Well, actually, the Constitution is a biblical document, so yes, it is constitutional. Not direct, it's not mentioned, but it would be in the general welfare clause of the Constitution.
And you know,
And plus, this is a God-fearing country, right?
Yes, indeed.
So they would be scared not to do what God says do, right? They'd be scared. Yeah, if somebody reminds them. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think you just answered.
No, you said, no, I didn't, because you have your own point of view. How can I answer?
I guess I'm just trying to, my question is this a natural, when I say natural, of course, everything that's natural comes from man anyway. But I mean, has this progression been in existence for, say, 76 trillion years? Has this always been, or is this,
Well, how far can you trace it back and see? Why don't you trace it back and see? You can report back next week. But 76 trillion, it's gonna take a while, right?
When you go back 50 years from 1950, you get 1865, which is.
1865, what was the Jubilee of 1865?
Freedom from slavery.
Freedom from slavery. What was 1815?
Wasn't that that was the year War of 1812, around that time?
Yeah, that was the culmination of the War of 1812, which preserved what? What was the great prize of the War of 1812? Yeah, preserve the Constitution. Preserve that document that guaranteed freedom for man. Okay, so that was worth a war. And you could keep going, which we won't do because that was then, right?
We need to plan for that.
Okay, what's now? Now what we could do, which would answer the second part of this topic, is we could put this date in here. Yeah, 2065. See, because whatever you decide in 2015, it's gonna take this long to get it. Damn. How'd I get to be a damn?
That sounds about right.
And how long do you think it takes for things to happen? I mean, like 50 years is a long time. That's accident. I can tell you.
So whatever was decided on in 1965 is what our Jubilee now, September, is gonna be?
Part of it, sure. And what's been decided since then? Well, what you decide right now?
Okay,
Because you weren't in here in 65, right?
no,
So are you a part of history or not?
very much so.
All right, then, the part in the past, you're not a part of it.
Indirectly,
Indirectly, but you were not on those freedom bus rides.
you're right.
Right, you didn't march across the bridge in Selma, right? Somebody else did that. You know about it. Okay, so now what bridge are you gonna march across?
Do we ask what we are expecting for this Jubilee? We answer that question?
What are we expecting? Wow.
What are we demanding?
Huh? What are we demanding?
What are we
Come on.
demanding
Come on.
from the powers that want?
From the powers. Okay, wait. We're getting ahead of ourselves, and the reason why we're stuck is because we left the question unanswered. What you started it, because you said we need a new Negro. So, and I asked the question right after that, I said, what produced the new Negro the first time? An idea. So, here's an aphorism that I invented. I made this up myself. I'm not quoting Aristotle, I'm quoting me. Ideas are the future. So you want to know what your future is? What idea do you have right now?
Is that question rhetorical?
Well, you could answer it or you could take it as a rhetorical question, but it's not a trivial question. And the truth of it is, most people's idea of the future is a repeat of the past, which is one of the major reasons why history repeats itself. Because you don't have a new idea. So if you have slavery in your past, what kind of ideas do you have? Yeah, the ideas of a slave. So now if you carry that forward into the future, what is your future? More slavery. And if you find yourself in slavery in 2065, it's because of what you thought about today. You thought that way.
Okay, I have a question, because you said that dissatisfaction is what produces your ideas. So I'm trying to.
No. Now that was actually a quote. That's the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, dissatisfaction brings about a change.
Right.
100% dissatisfaction brings about 100% change.
Okay. No, I'm still asking my question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Grant. So the people in slavery weren't dissatisfied enough to produce a new idea?
Correct.
Separate from.
Correct. They were in agreement with it.
Oh, because in house grows and field grows or something.
Yeah, but wherever they were in agreement with it, because all they had to do was pick up an axe and split the slave master's saw. That's all they had to do.
So
and they wouldn't do it. Still won't do it. Still won't do it. So, I was thinking about this last night. I was thinking about the slave trade, because it's Black History Month. You see, if history repeats itself, we should expect another slave trade, right? So then, see, the thing that was bugging me, I was trying to figure out how the slave trade actually worked. Because it's like, if you go to the market to buy apples, would you actually buy an apple that was bruised? No. Okay, so would you buy a slave that was bruised? No. So how is it that some people from England mostly could go into deepest, darkest Africa, come out with thousands of people and deliver them to a slave market, and they're not bruised?
Didn't they trick them?
Well, what I'm saying is they're in good shape.
Oh, yeah, because.
They didn't have broken bones. They didn't have bruises. They didn't have defects that the buyer would say, I'm not going to buy that. They were all in good shape. So how would you stay in good shape coming all the way from Africa in the hold of a ship to arrive in Charleston, South Carolina, or wherever, and you still be in good enough shape that somebody looks at you and say, okay, I'll pay $700.
Well, to get them on the ship, you have to give them a good enough reason to get on the ship.
Yeah, so.
Why you want to go? That's the trick.
Okay, so how did it actually work? Because, as we already have established about 50 minutes ago, if you do not know your history, then you will repeat it.
They sold them a dream. They just want to go for the day.
Okay, that's part of it. Telling lies. Okay, and if you think about it, that's primarily the reason why you go to college, isn't it? More gold for your labor. Did you get it? Did you get it? No, the trainer disappeared. There was nobody who could speak your language. And you find yourself burdened down with debt, and debt is slavery. So they did it again. With your wide awake self.
So, Karl Marx asserted that the black people will be the vanguard of the proletarian revolution.
They wanted that. They could never make it work because they could never get unity between poor blacks and poor whites.
Our past attempts at revolution have hinted at that. So if this is the big
current ones.
Mm-hmm. So if this is the big jubilee, this will be the year that we secure that position as giving ourselves black liberation.
But why would we want to do what Karl Marx said? Why fulfill his vision? Where's your vision? So again, see, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with slave mentalities. Learning to think out of the slavery box. Where you think somebody else is going to do something for you. Somebody has a position waiting for you. Like Karl Marx, you got a position, but we want you at the vanguard of the proletariat. What does that actually mean? That means you're going to catch the bullets first. So So is that actually what you want to sign up for?
I'm good on that.
And are you a communist? See, that's why that really didn't fly with most black people, because most black people believe in God. They ain't gonna be no communists. You got to have God somewhere in the equation with most black people. Because they just not going on with you if you leave God out. All right, so where are we?
We are at 2015.
Huh?
2015. What do we expect, or what?
Yeah,
What's
see-
our idea for ourselves?
Okay, so, right. So now if you're looking at, our Savior has arrived, somewhere in here. Maybe about 2/3 back in the book. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has this question. He said, what is your idea of the new world? Now he doesn't answer the question, but he just asked the question. What is your idea? And I've, for the last, starting in 2001, I probably had given 50 speeches, different times, different places, and I always ask the audience that question. I always repeat the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's question. What is your idea of a new world? Do you know, so far, I haven't got an answer from anybody.
Can we answer that for you?
I hope you do.
Like now?
Yeah, why don't you answer it?
Okay.
Speak for yourself.
I am. My vision of the new world has.
Wait. Put the camera on her. This is history. This is amazing here. You didn't hear what I said. What is this?
History.
Okay, what are we doing?
Writing history.
We're writing a history that remains to be written. The history that remains to be written is our history into the future. You haven't written it yet. That's why you don't have no future. They say this is the generation. You don't have no future. Why? Because you don't have an idea. You gotta get an idea. Okay, so tell us, give us an idea, please.
Okay, so if you're standing in the middle of the new world, you see a whole lot of green grass and trees and a bunch of birds that are all types of crazy colors in the glow, and butterflies glow at night, only at night. And there's butterflies, and there's big buildings, and none of it is made of brick. It's all very elaborate with, I don't know what type of material, but it looks cool. And there's a lot of gold and platinum and just wealth just everywhere. Everybody is happy. People who aren't happy get happy. And the biggest part of the new world is body energy balance, copyright Tabi Muhammad, and it is the spiritual health maintenance awakening and maintenance place.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. It has many levels.
Okay, all right, who has another idea of the future?
Is that? But just one of my ideas for the future is just in concerning Black people, just the people who have come to or are learning to love who they are with everything that's happened to us and everything that will, everything that goes on. Just the people who know who they are, who love who they are.
Okay, so in other words, you are looking for the cure for self-hate.
And
Just like some people looking for the cure for cancer. But what we actually need more than anything else is the cure for self-hate. So how would that be done? How would you cure a whole people who hate themselves so much that they can't unite and work together to get anything done?
My question.
Wait, there's a question on the floor.
I know, and my only problem with this is dealing with the people that are too old enough to change.
Too old enough?
Yeah, as far as the
Like
elders.
who? Wait a minute now, wait a minute.
We're talking about like the story of Moses, and we talk about how the elders, they didn't want to go forth with the plan.
But What happens to elders?
Well,
They die.
They die.
They die off,
Okay,
right?
all right, so then how many elders that are alive today are gonna be here in 2065?
Well, see, that's another issue too, because it's not just the elders that are thinking that way, it's also youth that think like elders as well.
Oh, you still got old
That
youth,
mindset can't live with it.
old fogey youth,
Right.
who just recycle old-fashioned ideas and call it new.
Right, so in order to answer your question as far as, how would you cure self-hate, you would have to get rid of the ones that can't move beyond the idea. You have to deal with individuals that are open to the idea of thinking differently.
Who is that? Do you know anybody like that?
Well, I myself.
Oh, you yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Are there any more like you?
I will hope everybody in this room.
Oh, you would? Okay, well, okay, so now, that's great. So now let's see, with the remaining time that we have this evening, let's see if we can come up with one new idea that isn't a recycled version of something that we have already seen before.
A new idea.
A new idea for a new world. In other words, to have a new world, you have to have a new idea. Just like to have a new Negro, you have to have a new idea. You have to do anything, you have to have a new idea. Not just a recycled version of an old idea. That would just be a repetition of history.
Just any idea?
No, a new idea.
Okay, I'm open to the new idea. It's my idea.
Okay, you're brand new, right?
Kind of.
The world has never seen you before, right?
Sometimes.
You haven't been around that long now. Okay, you just got here.
Since I was 50 years ago.
I was gonna say, just from a combination of, things that we already know, that if we want people to think differently in the future and love themselves, we have to start with the youngest of the young. So teach the babies, and more importantly, teach the girls, because everything starts with a woman. So if we start with the girls young, teaching them self-love and important tools for the future, then the future will be better for them.
Okay, who has the babies now and the children and the women?
Wait.
Who, wait a minute, we're talking about the old giving way to the new.
Yeah.
She's saying we need to teach the babies and the children and the women, you have to start with the women. So that means that right now, nobody's teaching the babies, nobody's teaching the children, and we don't have the women.
That's because the
Wait.
mothers of the babies are children.
Huh?
So a lot of the mothers of the babies are children.
Okay, but what I'm just saying right now, we don't have them, where are they? You're saying we need to get them and teach them, but where are they? Yeah, the enemy has the what do you call it? The powers that be have the babies, have control of the children, have control of the women. So now how are we going to act on what you said? How would we liberate the babies, the children, and the women?
We gotta start doing things, like forcefully teaching them. Like not like grabbing them, like listen to me, but like having.
What would be the best way to influence a baby?
A baby?
Yeah.
I think you will have to, since it's a baby, you will have to find a way to appeal to the mother so that you can influence.
No, I mean directly to the baby.
Directly.
The mother might be crazy. She might-
Talk to the baby.
How would you influence a baby? 1, 2, 3. Wait, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3.
Well, you changed the question.
I did.
You didn't really change the question. It's the same question, but what I believe.
Okay, change the answer.
Okay, this is something that I believe that there is a universal, like unifying force that will solve his problem of worried about people who may not get this methodology of teaching quick enough to accept a new idea. I believe that there's a tone or a sound or something, because I've seen examples.
Who's gonna make the tone?
Well, it's gotta be the right musician.
All right, who is that?
Well, I've seen examples of it.
Okay.
People who have done a pretty good job.
Okay.
And Mr. Farrakhan is one of them. I've seen him do it. But I think that we're all gonna come up to a certain level of tuning.
How are we gonna come up? In other words, if you see a rocket taking off, you see it going up, it has power. Okay, so what is the power that would bring someone up? So anyhow, you were next, I think, right?
Yes, you were saying, how do we reach women, children, and babies?
Yeah, how do you liberate? Because what she said is right, that you would have to teach the future generation if you wanted to have a future that was yours. So then you have to get control of the babies and the children and the women.
Well, I think step one, to have a teachable population of that demographic, you need to not vaccinate them and feed them the correct food so they can think about what you're teaching them.
Oh, okay.
So how do you relate to a baby is?
Hold on, you actually answered the other question I asked. So how would you influence a baby?
Don't vaccinate them in the
Well,
food.
you don't vaccinate, that's the negative. Don't vaccinate them, but what would be the positive? You feed them. You actually have to feed them. If you want a baby to like you, you have to feed it. If you won't feed children, they won't like you. They won't pay any attention to you. They will gravitate to people who can feed them. Were you three? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You were no. Right?
Well, you told me I was skipping ahead.
No. I was interrupting you because you answered a question that had already been asked. So go on and finish.
I lost it. Come back.
Okay.
Bouncing off what she said with what's your name?
Brianna.
Brianna said, with how do you talk to the babies?
How do you influence them so that they actually become your future?
With love. My mom owns a preschool. Babies respond to people that love them. Babies, because they're babies, they respond to what a lot of us as we get older forget energy. Or if babies respond to things like that, they can feel your energy. Babies can feel when you love them, when you really care about them, when you really want something for them.
Right.
And they gravitate to people like that.
Yeah, so that a self-hater can't display love towards a black child. So a black hater won't feed black children, won't feed them, won't give them no food. Let somebody else feed them. And then the loyalty of that child goes to the feeders. Even if what they're being fed isn't too good, well, at least he feed me something.
And adding on to that, with what she was like, perhaps of course, that if you teach them from the beginning to love themselves and to love who they are.
The beginning of what?
Well, from them being babies, it starts in the womb. You're taught that it starts in the womb.
How did it get in the womb? God.
A man through women and men. A lot through women and men, the baby in the womb is first. And I'm horrible. It's like making me question my whole life right now.
Well, you should.
But
what's wrong with that?
At the root of it though is just like love. And if you teach them to love, then
What does love mean?
it has to do
Give a visible example of love so that we would recognize it if we saw it.
You can't.
You can't?
Feel it.
Why?
Because it's like I can't explain to you. Love is duty. I can't explain to you why my dad loves me or why my dad.
I'm asking you why.
No.
I'm asking you what.
I can't give you a physical.
Okay. Who can give?
He loves me because he needs me.
Who? Right.
Like, it took me a second. Like, he loves me.
He loves, she knows he loves her because he feeds her. He takes care of her.
It took me a second. I got it.
So you say love. Love is help. No, I'm sorry. I'm actually writing this backwards. Help is love. Made visible. You know, so someone can claim to love somebody or love this, love that. Okay, see how much help they give to it. If there's no help there, then there's no love. That's just a word. That is a very deceptive word. that is used most often by deceivers. Because that's what everybody wants, isn't it? You want somebody to love you. Why? Why? Why do you want somebody to love you?
That means they will help you.
Because you need help. So you're looking for somebody that's going to help you and not hurt you. That would be the hallmark of hate, right? Hurt. So you can kind of divide things into two categories. Those things that hurt and those things that help. Those things that hurt are based on hate. Those things that help are based on love. So what help do babies and children and women need so that, let me refine the question. What help needs to be delivered to babies, children, and women so that in 2065, we actually have a future?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna ask about something.
Well, go ahead.
When we were talking about hate and love and hurt and help, and I guess this is open to the room. They're just saying that hate is also a form of love. You will only spend or act towards something if you love some part of it, or if you're attracted to some part of it. Does that attraction be like negative? Like if you fear it, that's why you hate, or you fear its abilities?
So you said somebody says that?
Well, no, well, yes, a lot of people say that.
Did
Hate and
you
love.
say that?
I have.
Okay, so I don't understand that actually.
You don't understand it? Someone would only care enough to actively hate you if they saw something in you that they loved or thought of value. Because they're thinking of you.
Okay, well, you're entitled to that point of view.
Okay.
Okay, that might be right, I guess. Okay, so what help needs to be delivered to children, women, babies, to actually ensure that you have a future? No, don't flip it around like that. We already said help is love. So don't say love. What kind of help specific? What kind of help do children, babies, women need? 1, 2, 3. Put your hand up. 4.
Women need security.
Security, okay.
That's for market.
What is the security need of women? No, right here on Howard's campus. What is the security need of women on Howard's campus? What happens to women on Howard's campus? They get raped. So about 30% of college women get raped within a 4-year college education. Okay? So how would you stop that? And the same is true in the military. It's even higher. Of course, in the military, most of the rapes are men raping men. So men need security too. About 70% of men in the military have been raped by superior officers. That's the privilege of rank. You get to rape your enlisted soldiers.
I just lost it. Can you repeat the question? You said what was needed?
Security. What is you were asking the question, what is the help that needs to be delivered to women, children, and babies so that we would actually have a future? See, we're actually acting off of what she said. She gave us a prescription for the future. We have to get control of the babies. So what help do babies, women, and children need? So you said 1, the security.
And then children and babies, they just need, they need to see a strong foundation. They need to see a
Foundation
strong
of what,
house.
floor?
They need to see what they should continue in terms of relationships of love. They need to see healthy relationships.
What's that called?
Marriage.
Yeah, that's actually called a family.
Okay.
Yeah, that covers that. That's what family is for. And when you deprive a child of a family, then you deprive that child of what you just said. There's no foundation. There's no psychological balance in a child raised in a home. There's only a woman there, or there's only a man there. But where's the balance? That child comes out unbalanced. Okay, so then psychologically unbalanced people are not very effective in life. Okay, who was next? 1, 2, were you 3? Yeah.
What's the question?
See, now, I used to say, when they used to talk about young people, they would say, well, they have short attention spans. And I used to say, no, they don't. Their attention span is just as long as anybody else's. But you all are trying to convince me that maybe that's true. Yeah, I mean, okay, the question, to repeat it. What help needs to be delivered to children, babies, and women so that we can have a future?
Service and protection.
Okay, service and protection, that actually is family. Because your mother serves you, she cooks for you, your daddy goes to work for you, they clean the house for you, even when you're a little baby, they clean your diaper, they do all kinds of services. So that's family. Did you mean something more than family?
No, I feel like service and protection is what love is. So
Yeah, that's family.
Love.
That's how it's set up to provide that.
Jabril forfeited his term.
Oh, you did? You know, you don't get to do that. You can't prove it. No, you can prove it.
Agriculture. Food.
Oh.
Real food,
You can't teach them. You don't get right.
You're right.
Well, okay, you
I
got
can't focus.
food. So you have to feed them right, and you said agriculture. But in order to have agriculture, what must you have?
Land.
You have to have land.
That's it.
In other words, you can't answer this question. What are you gonna do with the babies, the children, and the women? You don't have no place to put them. If you don't have any land, you don't have any place to put them. The only place you can put them is in some property that belongs to somebody else. You back in the game. He just had a Charlie boy.
I need help with this question. We talked about this with Reverend Bethel. Reverend Bethel specifically stated it was.
When?
This was last year.
I didn't know you
didn't know.
No, I said that we discussed what Reverend Bethel said.
Oh.
And it was a topic about in the community, the black community, and what it needed. It was like a point system. And in the point system, church was involved, as far as spirituality and everything. That I believe that would be the answer to the security aspect of what's necessary for the baby, children, and women. I just can't remember all the points that Reverend Bethel stated that the black community.
We just come up with one word that I can write on the board. I can't write on it. School, church.
Oh, yeah.
How about that?
That's better. Those are a few points.
School, yeah, you can say church, mosque, whatever. You gotta be able to provide that. Wait a minute now. Aren't most children, babies, and women nowadays, aren't they in a church?
No.
Okay, so are we talking about something different here? Huh? What would we have to be talking about when we say church or religion or spirituality, whatever term you want?
A new one.
A new one?
Yeah.
Oh, so we could actually do this, couldn't we? Put new in front of this whole list. We're not talking about the old school. No, we wouldn't send them to Howard, right? Or would we? Or would we?
If we own it,
I mean, if you send a child to Howard University or any university, what are you going to get? The same old thing you've been getting. So if you want something new, you got to send them someplace new. Or make what's old new, if you could do that. But if you send them to the same old place, you know what you're going to get. So you all already know what your future is. If things stay the way they are, you already know what your future is. The same old thing that you already are dissatisfied with. So that's why your life would be short if you accept that. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, we need to establish our own stuff, like our own land, our own, like we need to learn how to agriculture, because that's the problem with, it's all about what our kids are eating. And if we depend on somebody else to feed our kids, then,
What's a kid?
or our babies.
Well, what is a kid then?
A baby.
A goat. Okay. Is there a difference between a goat and a lamb?
The difference between a goat and a lion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
The lamb is the baby and the goat is the grown.
No.
The baby-
No,
Wait, I just said, what's the difference between a kid and a lamb?
A kid is a child, it's a child too.
He can't hear what you're saying. You are in a dialogue. That means you are speaking dialogue in a dramatic fashion so that you fill up the room with your presence and your wisdom. So speak so he can hear you in the back row. Huh?
Not, I don't want to do that, but I don't want
You don't want him to hear what you're saying?
to.
I would like that.
He would like to hear it.
I was going to say that a kid is a lamb's baby, and I thought that I was wrong because there's a lamb still a baby. I thought the sheep was the grown-up thing.
I thought the same thing.
That's why I said I don't want to do it.
So you don't know the difference between a kid and
I
a
thought
lamb?
a kid was a baby goat.
It is.
That's what it said.
Okay, that's right.
And a lamb is a baby
sheep.
Okay, so then what's the difference between a kid and a lamb?
Lambs are cleaner.
One is a sheep.
Huh?
One is a goat, one is a sheep.
Okay, we know that, okay?
One is stubborn,
Okay,
and one is stubborn, and one is.
One is more, yes.
yeah, exactly. One is stubborn, one is rebellious, one is hard to handle, one is mischievous,
The goat.
The goat.
the kid.
Oh.
And a lamb is kind of the opposite. Meek, mild, submissive, easily controlled.
White children are kids.
Huh? Well, I'm just saying, she was saying something, she was using the term kids, our kids. And I'm not saying some of our children aren't kids. I think some of our kids.
We call them that.
But do we want to take kids into the future or
Children.
lambs? I mean, to use the metaphor. What do we want
I
then?
mean, but we don't want to teach
Wait
them.
a minute. I want to hear this answer.
Like, we want leaders, we want strong people.
So what would that be called?
Wolves.
Yeah, how about a ram?
I was gonna say gods.
Ooh.
I want an animal. I want.
Okay, who was next? I lost track. Y'all are so confusing.
I just had a question. Are you ready?
No. Go ahead.
How could
I have to show I'm in control.
people knew behind all of the characteristics and everything, wouldn't want to ask us to explain what we mean by this, as far as each one of us.
Oh, okay, that's an easy word to look up. And also, you weren't finished. Were you? No, she wasn't finished.
Our own businesses, our own economic, just everything new.
So what is that called, when you have all of those things?
Ownership.
What's it called though? It's not called that. It's not called that. I'm not saying it isn't that. It's not called that.
Responsibility, independence.
A nation?
Yeah, nation building. Yeah, that you just described a nation. There's nobody new nation. What
But
is
is the
a
idea of
nation?
a new nation old?
Huh?
I'm sorry, I interrupted, number one. And number two, I wanted to ask this question earlier, but I wasn't honest and I didn't ask it. So, when you say we had to think of a brand new idea, does that mean an idea that could have existed before but wasn't tried correctly or tried in error? So could we then recycle idea? Because the idea of a new nation has been thought of before. It just hasn't been carried out. properly.
Well, I mean, you remind me of that famous quote of Gandhi. When someone asked Gandhi what he thought of Western civilization, he said it's a good idea, it just hasn't been tried yet. Okay? So there could be good ideas from the past that have never been tried before. So do you have one in mind?
That have not been tried before?
Yeah. Is that what you said?
Yeah, democracy, the new world. It was corrupted early on. So the nation, they were the start of America, there was good intentions, but
Okay, so what would a new democracy look like? How would it work?
there wouldn't be kind of that hierarchy or that monarchy or aristocracy that came back over from England.
Are you talking about a direct democracy or are you talking about a representative democracy?
Direct.
What would direct democracy look like?
Direct democracy is you don't vote someone else, one person doesn't make a decision for thousands of people.
So, wait a minute, he was asking next.
How do you attain this new without destroying the old nation? How are we gonna get any of this when we have white supremacy constantly making sure that we cannot obtain this?
Well, okay, suppose you wanted a new building here. How would you build a new building here without destroying the old one? Wait a minute.
You would have to destroy the.
You would have to destroy it. Those two things in the physical universe can't occupy the same space and time at the same time. So you would have to destroy, in other words, you would have to be willing to destroy the status quo.
So should we start there?
Huh?
Should we start there?
Well, isn't that?
Should we? I don't know.
We should.
How would you destroy the status quo? Well, what would be the single thing that you could do starting right now that would ultimately destroy the status quo?
We have to empower ourselves before we do that.
Yeah, you change yourself so that you're not a part of the status quo. And like the Bible says, in the world, but not of the world. Okay, so you can change yourself, and that's actually where you would have to start before you would think that you could change somebody else. You're the same old. How you want them to be new? Why don't you get new? Give them an idea of what you're talking about for yourself. You were second, third, fourth, fifth. You were fifth, right?
It just made me think about when she was saying, how democracy got corrupted very early on, and how we don't need the hierarchies and stuff, but as long as people look to people to be leaders and believe that they can't believe themselves, there's always gonna be hierarchy.
So what are you saying? What is that a symptom of?
That it's a symptom of, well, it goes back into self-hate. If you don't believe that you, like it's how it's act. If you don't believe that you can do so, it's like, who said it? And I'm not saying like he's emancipated, but Jay-Z said it when, when he said, he didn't say it, I thought, but it ties into what I'm saying, where he finally responded. It's like some people like, oh, you're Illuminati. That's the only way you got to where you are. You're this, you're that. And he came out and he said, why can't I be successful just because I'm an intelligent black man? Why does there have to be another cause at work? I can't do it on my own. It has to be another cause at work for me to be this way. So as long as we have that kind of mentality, we'll never be able to have a real democracy or a real.
Yeah, and you actually can't have a black president. Because he's being controlled by the Illuminati, right? He can't do anything on his own. He's a black man. So that's the ultimate disrespect. So what is the foundational issue in what you're talking about there? No, deeper than that. What is the slave mentality? Well, it's deeper than that.
Irresponsibility.
Irresponsibility, exactly. Irresponsibility, the unwillingness to be responsible for yourself and others. You want somebody to give you a job. You won't create one. You want someone to feed you. You won't feed yourself. You want somebody to build a house so you can live in it.
Yeah.
You won't build it yourself. You want somebody to do everything for you and you don't do it yourself. Total irresponsibility. So what is that irresponsibility? I call that's the luxury of slavery. That's the benefit of being a slave. That you do not have to be held accountable or responsible for yourself or anybody. Nobody can blame you if something goes wrong. Because you're a slave, you just work here. Okay, I think you were next.
You asked the question was what the new democracy look like?
Yeah, how would it work?
They would have to be equal rights.
How would it work? How would it look like modern, new, brand new? It's not a time for platitudes. This is a time for precise technological solutions applied to human problems of the future. Doesn't that sound poetic?
Yeah.
See, you think I'm joking sometimes when I say dialogue is drama. The thing that I love about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad more than anything else, he showed us the way to get on the stage of world history. So we could join the drama of human life. So we could recite our lines and play our parts, which we were not doing before. Okay? So we're learning dialogue, which is learning drama, learning theater. The effective, strong way of conveying ideas to other people in a way that they can understand it, that they can process it, make it their own, and allow those new ideas or thoughts to transform themselves so that they become new people. So.
That's what a new democracy looks like. That's it.
Okay, but how would it work?
Everybody plays their part.
We don't want poetry, we want mathematics and science.
Okay, so with the technology that we have.
Okay, technology like what? That we have, you said we have.
Everybody.
We have.
We
have.
I don't have it, I can be sure.
You got a phone, brother.
I don't have one of those.
I can call this and I'll tell you.
We have. We got it, don't worry. Wait a minute, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say using technology that we have.
And how would it work? What would you do? What would you do with your smartphone?
I would connect with a brother and sister that's in a state or country across the world, and I would present to them my part and my idea.
You do that now on Facebook.
But it's different.
No, really, what you could do, see, in other words, if you had a population of citizens in a country who were actually awake and paying attention, they would say, you know what, we don't need to elect people to Congress to represent me. All of the issues that come up before the country can be presented on the internet. And everybody can read it, and then everybody can vote on it. You don't need 535 corrupted, bribed representatives that you don't even know, somebody in Congress representing you. You don't even know who they are. You never talk to them. They never talk to you. How are they gonna represent you? No, they can't. But you could represent yourself if you knew how. So say if suppose you had a direct democracy when last year or 2 years ago, when it came up before Congress, that the banks decided that they wanted to exempt student loans from any bankruptcy protection. See, Congress voted in favor of the banks, so that now you're stuck with a student loan that you could never get out of. Well, suppose you had direct democracy, that question would have come up on your screen, and you would have looked at it, hell no. I ain't voting for that. And then the majority of the people around the country would have voted that down because the people would recognize that's not in my interest. So why wouldn't you set up a high-tech government? Why would you have a government that operates pretty much the way it did in 1776? Yeah, maybe that was a good idea in 1776. You only had a population of about 12 million people. So then you could have 535 senators and members of Congress, and you could evenly divide 12 million into 535 into 12 million. So each representative was representing, several thousand people. But what about 317 million? And you divide 535 into that. That means each congressman is representing like 500,000 people. How could one person represent that many people? So as you notice, they can, and it doesn't work.
Social democracy sounds great, but under the capitalist system that we're in,
We're in a capitalist system?
Well, yes, we are. In
Since
capitalism,
when?
Actually.
Since when?
Well, capitalism actually is the exploitation of people under you.
Wait a minute. When did this become a capitalist? I didn't get the news.
What kind of system is it? It's not a capitalist.
It's actually, communist. Yeah, it's actually communism. That's in practice. Now they talk capitalism. I understand that. That's the propaganda. But how does it actually run? See, who owns, in other words, when you talk about capitalism or socialism or communism, what are you talking about? You're talking about ownership. Who owns the country? Who owns the property? Who owns the land? So in a capitalist society, the ownership is with everybody. Anybody who has capital can buy property. In a socialist or communist system, everything is owned by the government. So in this country, everything's owned by the government.
Used to be owned.
In other words, this is actually the reason why the last president of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, this is why he agreed to disband the communist system in the Soviet Union, because it was so old-fashioned. He came to America and saw how real communism works. And so he said, well, we're going to try out the new model, because it's better than that old Bolshevik model from Russia. So how do we prove that the government owns everything?
Because the government can sell it.
Because the government can sell it. That's a very good point.
Because the government has sold it.
The government has. That's an even better point. And how else?
Yeah.
How else? How would you check on the ownership of corporations, businesses, land, property? How would you check on the ownership to see who owns it? What would you do to check on it?
Well, I was gonna say, you know, they only do that accent.
Pardon me?
You gotta ask them.
Okay, that's an indirect, who do you have to ask permission from? That tells you who the owner is. If something is yours, you should be able to do with it as you please. I mean, if you actually own the car, shouldn't you be able to drive it any way you want? Yeah, but you can't. You have to have a license. You have to have a title. You have to have insurance. They have to inspect it. Then you have to pay registration. I paid registration. Some people charge me $700 and some dollars.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's all them tickets I had. I had tickets. I had to take out a finance plan to pay my tickets. Yeah, all to the payable to the DC treasurer. I don't even know who that is.
All right. The businesses own the government. The government don't own businesses.
Wait. That actually may be true, but let's take a look. How would you determine the ownership of a business, say a corporation?
Who do they pick?
CEO.
No, how would you, these are public records, by the way. You can check anytime you want. How would you determine who owns General Motors, DuPont, IBM?
Who's making the most money off of it?
All right.
Who has the most stock?
Stock. I mean, these are stock corporations. So you look at the list of stockholders and you see who the owners are. Who owns the most stock? Well, what you would find is that the number one stockholder in the United States are government pension funds. Government pension funds. They own the majority of stock in all corporations across the board. Then you have private stock owners. But the overwhelming majority of stock is controlled by government pension funds. Who runs government pension funds? Yes.
Wall Street.
Huh? Yeah, I'm talking to you. You brought this up. I'm just responding to you.
People in government.
Yeah, the government runs government pension funds. So if the government pension funds run by the government are the major stockholders in all of the major corporations, who owns the corporations? The government. So what do you call a system where the government owns all of the businesses? It's called communism. So when Mikhail Gorbachev understood that, he said, whoa, we've been doing this communist thing backwards. We in the dark ages. America got the whole thing going. But of course, in a communist system, what do they rely upon to keep down the dissatisfaction? No, the people know a whole lot.
What's the question?
What do the powers that be who control the status quo, what do they do to keep down the dissatisfaction of the population? And this is characteristic of all communist systems.
It make them think they're free.
Well, make
give
them
them
think that they're free,
choice.
Make them think that it's capitalism, make them think all kinds of things. What is that called?
Propaganda.
Propaganda. Okay, so then some of the corporations owned by the government, what kind of corporations are they? Media. So here the government owns ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, Fox News, all of the major media, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Washington Post, all of the media. Okay, so now, do you think that the media is going to report anything that the government does not want? No. Of course not. So then the government media or propaganda people inform the media what you are allowed to report on and how you need to report it. And you are not allowed to inform the people of the truth of what is really going on. And of course, they hold the threat. If you don't do what we want, then we will dump all our stock.
What does that mean? Dump all our stock?
Meaning we will, so suppose you have a corporation, ABC, they have 10 million shares of stock outstanding, that the government owns 6 million. So the government would threaten, well, okay, we'll just dump it on the market, we'll just sell it all. So suppose the stock is selling for $50 a share, all of a sudden, the way it would be reported, big corporate investors have made a big move on Wall Street against ABC Corporation. The stock has plunged 40 points in one day. Pardon me?
Doesn't the price of a single share?
You're whispering, he can't hear you.
Doesn't the price of a share go down? And it makes the company less valuable, right?
But that's what happened. It went from $50 to $10. Okay, so now the remaining shareholders, they just lost 80% of their wealth.
What makes it go down?
You just sell it at the cheapest price. Then the more you sell it, people buy it at the cheap price.
Wouldn't that mean that you're taking a loss?
You're the government. So yes, you are taking a loss, but you can afford it. And guess what you're going to do?
Buy it again.
Huh?
Buy it again, another way, right?
Well, yeah, so now ABC Corporation is now probably in a bankruptcy situation, right? They lost 80% of their value, so now they're in bankruptcy. What are they going to do?
Get bailed out.
I'm sorry?
They got to file for bankruptcy, they got to go back to the government.
Go back to the government and come under what?
The government.
Come under government receivership, where the government will appoint a new board of directors, appoint a CEO, appoint a new financial officer.
That is communism.
Yeah, so now the government puts in place its own people, so that ABC Corporation can be in line with government policy, And then all of a sudden, the big institutional investors on Wall Street have decided to reinvest in ABC Corporation. So that's how the game is played.
Okay. This is very confused, because like, then what system will work? Because if you have a capitalist system, which you say, when you have capital, you have representation because you own property. Not everybody has capital or resources, so not everybody has representation. So that means that system won't work either.
But wait, no. You don't have capitalism, right? Give me an example of a capitalist country.
No, I don't know.
There are none. So again, do you see how that is clever propaganda? To make you believe in something that doesn't exist. So you have plenty of people. I mean, you know, what do they call it? The magic of the marketplace. Isn't that the term that they use to describe capitalism? The magic of the marketplace. And you just have to trust in the market and believe in the market, and the market will correct itself. But what is that? That's a religion. So it's a religion in a make-believe system that is called capitalism. And you can search this whole planet over, and you cannot find a single example of a capitalist country. Not a single one. And there never has been one. Ever. It's a made-up idea. Who made up that religion? Adam Smith. He created the magic of the marketplace to justify what?
The government's ownership.
But there was a specific issue, the specific issues though.
Hypocrisy.
Yeah, but what was the hypocrisy that had to be justified on economic grounds?
All men are created equal.
Exactly. In other words, it was a justification for slavery. You were a slave because you were non-productive in the capitalist frame of mind. So you're a slave. It's the survival of the fittest. You brought it on yourself. I'm not exploiting you. I'm actually bringing you out of Africa, and I'm saving your soul for Jesus. That's actually what I'm doing. The fact that you're out there in the cotton fields and the tobacco fields, you know, day and night, that's just beside the point. We're actually saving your soul. And the magic of the marketplace allows us to do it at a profit. Why shouldn't we do good and do well at the same time? Doing the Lord's work. Converting the heathen savages out of Africa into the Lord's religion. So, are we out of time? We're out of time. Okay, so one of the things that we always notice about dialogue is we never finish. There's always more to be said. We just getting started. We're just scratching the surface. But who would like to summarize and sum up the topic so that we have some proof on the tape that we actually covered our topic?
And I got simple text that said, study with this deal. Based on the allotted fee.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm not gonna try and do the summary, but I did have one question that I thought was important. You said earlier when we were dealing with the Jubilee dates.
We left that hanging.
With 2015, we won't see happen until 2016.
No.
What we decided in 2015.
No.
So I guess my question is, what was decided in 1965 that we should, what is it looking like now in 2015?
Okay, what was the most important event in 1965 that gave a new idea? What was the thing that happened in 1965 that gave you a new idea? Just like Marcus Garvey, 50 years earlier, gave a new idea? Who gave a new idea in 1965?
Martin King.
In a way.
Well, can I say the idea that I think is?
Go ahead.
Is what is Jobs and Justice?
Okay. Was that new? Are jobs new? That's it.
Elijah Muhammad,
Okay, I proved
Elijah Muhammad, because he influenced he influenced Malcolm X, he influenced.
it. No, wait. How did he influence the world? See, we're talking on a global scale now. We're not talking on an individual scale. We're talking about events that impact the entire planet and the whole population on it.
He influenced the world because he came in with this new idea of basically like
How did he do it? Because the reason that's important to know, we might have to do it again. So we might be faced with the same problem again, so we can then look back in the lessons of history and say, oh, well, when he was faced with that, what he did was, so what did he do in 1965?
He taught that we should take accountability for our life while we live.
So y'all are making it so complicated.
To do yourself?
But how did he do that? That's right, but how did he do it? The question is how, not what.
He came in with a multi-million-dollar empire.
How did he do it?
And one thing,
See, because we need to do that again. So if you don't know how he did it, then you can't duplicate it. Go ahead.
I would say he laid out a plan, presented it to people.
Yeah, but how did he do it? How?
He wrote it down.
How? Okay, come on.
He wrote it in the book and gave it.
What book?
The message to the.
All right, published when? When? 1965. So he put a book in circulation in the world that has now been read by millions and millions and millions of people. I mean, everybody in this room, you have been influenced and molded by the ideas that are in Message to the Black Man. You would be sitting here if he didn't write that book. So now, if we said Message to the Black Man published in 1965, okay, we've had 50 years to study it. How well have we done? Well, you be your judge of that. You see, but if you say, well, what percentage of what is in that book are we doing? He laid it out. Then what did he do after he wrote the book? What did he do?
He made an empire.
He made an empire. No, anybody could say anything. See, anybody can make a speech. Anybody can come up with a good sounding idea, make a speech, write an essay, make a movie. Anybody can do that. But what is the criteria of success? What does it work? Do you get results? In other words, the results are what count. That's what validates an idea. Does it work? Sounds good, but does it work? Well, he showed, yes, it works. So then, what should we do in 2015 then?
Got into effect. Put the book into effect.
Yeah, find out. Wait a minute. You're right, but let me refine it a little bit. Find out how he put it into effect. Because I might read the book and I think it goes this way. Well, I might be right, I might be wrong. But how did he do it? Because that's the way that was right. It worked. That's how you know it was right. Then what? Then after you do that, then what must you do? Pardon me?
Well, it works. Spread it.
No, you're already working. That's part of how he did it. That didn't work.
Write it down.
Huh?
You need to record what you did.
Well, wait a minute. Let me go back there. She said he built an empire. What happened to the empire? It fell. It was destroyed. It didn't fall. It was destroyed.
Then why I understand that now, yeah, I follow that now. But it's like, why is it this, not even this worldwide, but just amongst the nation, this nationwide belief that the empire fed the nation?
Well, these are words. One of the things use in communication. We choose words, right? And we choose words for particular reasons. So you notice in the study group, someone will answer a question with the words that they choose. Sometimes I'll say, well, I'll ask the question again, trying to get a different word. Because sometimes if you make the right choice of the word, it opens up the whole thing. So you actually can see what it is. Some words you use, it actually covers up the reality of what you're talking about. It's just a symbol that covers something. So what is the different meaning between the nation fell and the nation was destroyed?
Because fell implies that there was a fault in something that he did that made it eventually fall, even though it froze, that it still fell, that it was his, he was at fault for it to fall. Destroyed means that an outside force came in and took it down.
Okay, all right, so now it matters quite a bit, which is true. Now, a lot of times it could be a combination of internal factors and external factors working in a conspiracy together to produce an effect. Okay, so which was it? We're talking about real history. We're talking about events. We're talking about events that came to a culmination 40 years ago, 1975. That was 40 years ago. So you have an empire that was valued at $50 million. As of 1974.
No, it's 80.
No, 50. Well, actually, the statement of the National Secretary in Savior's Day 1974, Abbas Rasul, he said, last year, our total sales were $50 million. So he said, he used the word sales. Now, if you added in the value of the property, the land, and all the other things, maybe it was 80 or more. What would 50 or $80 million look like today? What would that be?
I mean, that's still a lot of
No.
money.
No, I mean, $1 in 1974, let's say.
Inflation.
With inflation, what would $1 be worth today? Or I'm saying it wrong. Does anybody understand what I'm saying? How many dollars would you need today to equal $1 in 1974? Well, what has been the inflation rate since 74? Do you know? Okay, you would need $31 to equal $1 from 1970. That would actually go back to 1971. Approximately the same time. So you would need $31 to equal $1 at that time. So 31 times 50 would be what? 1,550 million. The 1,150, I'm sorry. So what is that?
I think it's 150 million.
That's a billion.
That's a billion.
That's good.
So in other words, if you got back what was, say, the sales volume of 50 million in 74, you would have to have a sales volume of 1,155,000,000 to equal that. See, that's why you have to study history. Otherwise, you don't know what your goals are. You will think that you're doing something and you won't be doing anything.
1,550,000,000.
Yeah. And that would just equal what was achieved. So again, now what does your respect level for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad do when you look at that? Yeah. So now, back to what we were talking about. What was his methodology by which he did that? That's what has to be learned. Because he's not here to do it. We have to do it ourselves.
He taught us our history.
That was part of it. That was part of it. So he taught you what part of your history was the most important.
History when we had the most success.
Well, when was that?
Before slavery.
Yeah, but when was that? Come on, be specific. Now you gotta be specific. Can't be general and vague.
5 years.
50,000 years ago.
Okay, what happened 50,000 years ago? We put this up on the board. What was the history of 50,000 years ago? Just real quick.
Quickly, our people, leader, God, a scientist by the name of Shabazz, took our people into the jungles of Africa and made a new people.
Okay, right. So that's was the event that happened. But the significance is, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, 50,000 years ago is the last time that we ruled as gods. Haven't been ruling as gods since that time. You have been in a fall for 50,000 years. So now, answer this simple question. Understanding the rules of gravity. How high would you have to be in order for you to have to fall for 50,000 years before you hit the bottom?
Top.
I'm sorry?
You got the top.
Well, how far would that be? You're a physics major. So what is the acceleration, the gravity acceleration equation?
Gravity, so you mean?
Yeah, that determines how far something falls, how fast it falls under the influence of gravity.
Well, gravity is 9.8 meters. Oh, wait, no. Gravity is 9.8. I forgot the unit. But gravity is different.
Don't change the subject. We want to know how high you would have to be in order for it to take 50,000 years for you to fall all the way down and hit rock bottom. Okay, what is the equation? Because if you have the equation, then you can do the math.
Newton's universal law of gravitation, F equals Gm sub 1 times M sub 2.
Wait. What?
F equals Gm, capital G, lowercase m, sub 1 times M sub 2 divided by R squared.
Okay, so somebody, R squared. Somebody figure that out. Right. How high would you have to be? What would be the distance covered in 50,000 years falling under the force of gravity? So that's how high you were. That's how far you were in order to get this far down today. So now what is your task? To get back up there. Okay, so now what do you need to get back up on top? Yo, one word answer.
No.
No, because you already have knowledge.
Dissatisfaction?
You already dissatisfied, you ain't on top.
I did.
Power. Nothing will do except power. You got to have power. If you ain't got no power, you can have all the knowledge in the world. You ain't got no power. You got to have power.
I thought knowledge was power.
If you know how to use it. See, after learning knowledge, then learn how to use it so you can get some benefit for yourself. So we have the knowledge, but we don't know how to use it. What is the proper use of knowledge called?
Education.
Wisdom. So a person could have knowledge but no wisdom. So my grandfather called those people educated fools. They got a whole lot of knowledge and no sense. They don't know how to use what they have to get any benefit for themselves. So they think college is where you go to get a job. They don't have no sense. Anyhow, we were supposed to be wrapping up. Starting all this preaching. So who wants to summarize the topic so we can get out of here? Otherwise, it'll be 50,000 years and he's still up in here trying to get back up on top.
Our history is way more relevant than we realize.
Black history is still relevant because in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you've been, but then you have to have a new idea after you get get to where you're going. So that the system will work, so you can sustain your existence.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
I like what he said. I would just add to that, Black History Month is a starting point to study Black history in general. And then I would just add that to what he said.
Okay, anybody else? Yes.
I don't mean like to go against the flow, but I kind of feel like this is a little bit. Is Black History Month still relevant?
No.
Okay. Because we have determined that 76 trillion years of history it can't be covered in 29 days.
How long does it take to cover 76 trillion years of history? 76 trillion years. Do we have that much time?
Yes.
Yeah, we already have had that much time. How much more time do we have? At least 76 more trillion, I suppose. We made it through the first. I mean, what I've heard is if you make it through the first 76 trillion, you got it. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. I can't vouch for that, but.
There's one thing I didn't mention that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said was that we create our history in advance. The black man creates his history in advance.
Right.
That's a really important statement.
Yeah, that is the most important statement. Because it's one thing to be talking about the past, but actually you don't live in the past, do you? Where do you live?
In the future.
Oh, no, you live in the future, if you're alive. So that's how you can tell a mentally dead person. A mentally dead person either lives in the past or tries to, or lives in the present. And they're just plagued by present day problems. Everything, they're just totally overwhelmed by the present moment. A sane person lives in the future. And how does a sane person manifest the fact that they're living in the future?
They have an idea.
They have an idea. Perfect. So, yeah, so if you talk to somebody and they have no ideas, they're mentally dead. If you talk to somebody and they're talking about, man, 5 years from now, I'm gonna have this and this, that, they're out there in the future. Okay, that is the same person.
No, I want to say, you said Black history isn't relevant?
That's what she said.
Okay.
And I think she was making the point, it's not relevant because you can't cover 76 trillion years in a month. So we need more than a month.
That's just the beginning. That was my point.
Yeah, exactly. And the most important point was what he said, which was what? You have to write it in advance, so get started, otherwise you won't have a future. You'll run out of time and you will run out of future, then you'll be in the past. And that's not where you want to be. So are we done? Any last comments, questions, observations?
That was good.
No.